The Galactic Council Arena floated in the dark silence of space, like a giant silver moon. It was one of the largest structures ever built by the civilizations of the galaxy. Millions of lights shined across its surface, and thousands of ships were parked around it. Inside the arena, thousands of alien species sat in huge floating seats that circled the massive stage below. Today was a special day across the galaxy. It was the day of the Galactic Physical Showcase, an event where different species showed their strength, speed, and physical abilities. The event was not only entertainment, it was also a way for the powerful races of the galaxy to prove their superiority. Large screens displayed the performances, while alien commentators spoke with excitement. One by one, powerful species entered the arena and amazed the crowd. First came a race from the heavy world of Crater. They had 4 arms and bodies made of thick muscle. One of their athletes walked onto the stage and lifted a metal pillar that weighed more than a small spaceship. The crowd cheered loudly. Next came a tall reptilian species from the desert planet Varkle. Their athlete crouched low, then jumped across the arena floor, clearing a distance longer than a human football field. The audience roared with excitement. After that, a floating species from a low-gravity world showed their abilities. They moved through the air like ghosts, spinning and gliding with perfect control. The judges nodded with approval as each species showed why they were respected in the galaxy. Then the announcer's deep voice echoed through the arena again. The next species prepared to enter the stage. The screen behind the announcer changed and displayed a small blue planet. The name appeared across the screen. Earth. A strange silence spread across the arena. For a few seconds, nobody said anything. Then whispers began to move through the crowd. Soon those whispers turned into laughter. Many alien species had heard about humans before. They were new to the galactic stage and not known for great strength or special abilities. They had no claws, no wings, no natural armor, and no extreme physical power like many other races. To most of the galaxy, humans were simply average creatures from a small and chaotic planet. Some aliens even thought it was a mistake to invite them to such an important event. The laughter grew louder as the announcer continued speaking. The next participants will represent the human species of Earth. Several aliens leaned toward each other, clearly amused. Some recorded the moment with their devices, expecting a funny performance. One of the judges, sitting high above the arena, watched the scene with clear amusement. His name was Zurich, a tall alien from the powerful Dravari species. His long face twisted into a mocking smile as he looked down at the empty arena floor. The Dravari were famous for their strength and their pride, and Zurich believed humans were nothing special. He leaned closer to his microphone and spoke to the entire arena. His voice was calm but filled with quiet mockery. Let us see what humans can show the galaxy today. Perhaps they will surprise us, though I doubt it. The crowd laughed again. Finally, the entrance doors at the side of the arena slowly opened. A single human walked onto the stage. His name was Ethan Cole. He did not look like a warrior. He was not covered in armor or carrying advanced technology. He wore a simple athletic uniform with the blue symbol of Earth on his chest. His body looked small compared to many of the powerful alien athletes who had performed earlier. But Ethan's face was calm and focused. He did not react to the laughter around him. The arena lights dimmed slightly as a metal structure slowly rose from the floor. It was a simple gymnastics setup made of 2 tall bars, connected by strong cables. To most alien species, the equipment looked strange and pointless. Many aliens whispered again, confused about what the human was about to do. Ethan walked toward the bars slowly. Every step he took echoed through the silent arena. The cameras zoomed in on him, while millions of viewers across the galaxy watched from their worlds. Some aliens were still laughing. Others watched with curiosity. Judge Zurich leaned back in his seat, clearly expecting something unimpressive. Ethan stopped beside the bars and placed his hands on the metal. For a moment he stood still, breathing slowly. Then suddenly he moved. His body lifted into the air with surprising speed. He swung forward, his legs rising high above his head. In a single smooth motion, he spun around the bar and launched himself upward. The movement was fast, clean, and perfectly controlled. Many aliens stopped laughing immediately. Ethan flipped through the air once, then twice. then 3 times before grabbing the higher bar, with perfect timing. The arena grew quiet. His body spun again as he moved across the bars, with incredible speed. His arms and legs moved with perfect balance, as if every part of his body understood exactly what to do. Ethan released the bar again and jumped into the air. This time he flipped 4 times before landing on a thin metal beam that extended above the structure. The landing was silent and perfect. No shaking. No mistake. The arena that had been filled with laughter only moments before was now completely silent. Thousands of alien eyes stared down at the small human standing calmly on the narrow beam. Even Judge Zurich leaned forward slightly in his seat. For the first time since the event began, the judge's mocking smile slowly disappeared. Ethan looked down at the arena floor below him. Then he bent his knees slightly. The human athlete jumped again, rising higher into the air than many aliens believed possible for such a small creature. As his body began to spin again above the arena, the first feeling of confusion began to spread through the crowd. The aliens had expected a joke, but what they were seeing no longer looked like a joke at all. It looked like something impossible, and the human performance had only just begun. The arena remained strangely quiet after Ethan Cole's first performance. Only a few minutes earlier the stadium had been full of laughter and mocking voices. Now thousands of alien eyes stared at the small human athlete, standing calmly on the metal beam. The silence felt heavy. Many aliens were unsure how to react. Some believed what they had seen was only a simple trick. Others thought the arena technology must have helped the humans somehow. In the upper chamber of the arena, the Galactic Council judges watched closely. Judge Zurich slowly leaned forward in his tall seat. His long fingers tapped the armrest as he studied the human below. For a moment he said nothing. Then he spoke again into the arena microphone. His voice carried across the massive stadium. Interesting movement for such a fragile species. A few aliens laughed again, though their laughter sounded weaker than before. Zurich continued speaking with calm confidence. But gymnastics is only balance and movement. It is not true strength. It is not true power. His eyes turned toward Ethan. Human athlete, you may continue your demonstration. Let us see how long your balance lasts. Ethan did not answer. He simply stood on the narrow beam, his body perfectly steady. The beam was extremely thin, barely wider than a human foot. For many alien species, standing on such a surface without falling would already be difficult. But Ethan looked relaxed, as if he were standing on solid ground. Around the arena, alien scientists began activating scanning devices. Small floating drones moved closer to the performance area. They started recording Ethan's movements, measuring his speed, balance, muscle tension, and brain activity. Some aliens still believed the human was using hidden technology, but the scanners showed nothing unusual. No gravity devices, no hidden support fields. It was only the human body. Ethan slowly raised his arms. The lights of the arena focused on him. Millions of viewers across the galaxy watched the moment through giant screens. Then Ethan began to move again. He took 3 fast steps along the beam and jumped into the air. His body twisted sideways in a smooth motion. His legs crossed, then opened again as he spun through the air. He landed lightly on the beam and continued moving without stopping. Gasps spread through sections of the crowd. The human moved faster now. His feet touched the beam for only a moment before he jumped again. Another flip. Another perfect landing. His body bent and stretched with incredible control. The aliens watching could see every muscle moving in perfect timing. It looked less like a performance and more like a dance with gravity itself. In the science viewing area, several alien researchers began speaking nervously. One of them was a tall, insect-like scientist from the planet Kethra. His eyes focused on the scanning results appearing on a floating screen. "This is unusual," he said quietly. Another scientist beside him studied the same data. "The human muscle strength is not exceptional," she replied. "In fact, several species here are much stronger." The insect scientist nodded slowly. "Yes, but look at the coordination signals." On the screen, a complex map of Ethan's nervous system appeared. Tiny flashes of light showed signals traveling between his brain and his muscles at incredible speed. The human brain is controlling hundreds of small adjustments every second. the scientist said. Balance, rotation, muscle tension, air position, all at once. The other scientist looked surprised. Most species cannot manage this level of control. Back in the arena, Ethan moved to the end of the beam. Without slowing down, he jumped again. This time he performed a long spinning flip and landed on the lower bar of the gymnastic structure. His body swung forward in a powerful arc. The speed of the swing caused the cables of the structure to vibrate slightly. Ethan released the bar at the highest point of the swing and launched himself upward. The audience watched in shock as the human rose high above the equipment. For a moment he seemed to float in the air. Then his body began rotating rapidly. 1 spin, 2 spins, 3 spins. He caught the upper bar again with perfect accuracy and continued swinging. The crowd reacted louder this time. Some aliens leaned forward in their seats. Others activated recording devices. The laughter that once filled the arena had now completely disappeared. Even the alien commentators seemed unsure what to say. High above the arena floor, Judge Zurich watched carefully. His expression was no longer amused. His eyes followed every movement the human made. Zurich pressed a small control panel beside his seat. A quiet signal moved through the arena systems. A few seconds later, the central control computer responded. Gravity level adjustment available. Zurich spoke calmly. Let us increase the difficulty. The announcer's voice quickly informed the audience. Attention! The arena will now activate variable gravity conditions for the human demonstration. A low mechanical hum spread across the stadium. Invisible gravity generators around the arena began to change the force inside the performance area. For many species, sudden gravity changes were extremely difficult to handle. Balance could disappear instantly. Even experienced athletes often failed when gravity shifted unexpectedly. Ethan landed on the bar again just as the gravity began to increase. His body dropped slightly as the weight pulling him downward became stronger. Several aliens in the crowd expected him to lose control immediately. But Ethan adjusted instantly. His grip tightened. His muscles shifted smoothly to match the heavier force. He swung forward again, still perfectly balanced. A wave of surprise spread across the audience. The gravity increased again. Then suddenly it dropped to a lighter level. Ethan released the bar during the change and flipped through the air once more. His body corrected its position midair and landed perfectly on the beam again. The arena filled with murmurs of disbelief. This was no longer a simple human performance. Something about the way humans moved was beginning to confuse the entire galaxy. Even with changing gravity, Ethan Cole continued his routine as if nothing had changed at all. And far above the arena floor, the members of the Galactic Council were beginning to realize something they had never expected. The humans they once laughed at might not be weak after all. In fact, they might be something far more dangerous than anyone in the galaxy had imagined. The atmosphere inside the Galactic Council arena had completely changed. Only a short time ago the crowd had laughed at the idea of humans performing in the Galactic Physical Showcase. Now the same crowd watched in deep silence as Ethan Cole continued his movements on the narrow beam high above the arena floor. The gravity inside the performance zone kept shifting slowly. First it became heavier, pulling everything downward with stronger force. Then it became lighter, making every jump more unpredictable. For most species in the galaxy, such changes destroyed balance and control almost instantly. Even trained alien athletes struggled to move properly under variable gravity. But Ethan Cole continued moving as if the changes meant nothing to him. He stepped lightly across the beam, his arms adjusting slightly with every shift in gravity. His eyes remained calm and focused. Every movement was controlled. Every landing was perfect. The audience watched with growing confusion. In the science observation chamber above the arena, alien researchers continued studying the data collected from Ethan's performance. Screens filled the room, showing detailed scans of the human body. Muscles, bones, nerves, brain signals, and balance sensors were all displayed in bright colors. One scientist, a tall gray-skinned being from the world of Seraph, stared closely at the brain activity readings. "The signal speed is extraordinary," he said quietly. "The human brain is making thousands of small corrections every second." Another scientist adjusted the scanner and zoomed closer to Ethan's nervous system. "Look here," she said. "Every time gravity changes, his brain immediately sends signals to adjust muscle tension and balance." The first scientist tilted his head slightly. "But how is this possible? Humans evolved on a single gravity world. They should not adapt this quickly." A third scientist, an older alien with 6 glowing eyes, spoke slowly from the corner of the room. "Perhaps that is exactly why they can do it." The other researchers looked at him. The old scientist continued speaking. "Humans evolved on a dangerous planet. Their world is full of storms, mountains, oceans, and unstable environments. Their bodies may not be the strongest, but they learn to survive by constant adjustment." Meanwhile, in the arena below, Ethan prepared for another movement. He stood at the center of the beam while the gravity increased once more. His body became heavier, but his posture did not change. Slowly he bent his knees and jumped again. The crowd watched closely as his body rose into the air. Because of the stronger gravity, his jump was lower than before. But Ethan adjusted instantly. Instead of a high flip, he performed a fast sideways rotation and landed smoothly back on the beam. A wave of surprised voices spread across the audience. Even species with advanced physical abilities were beginning to understand that what they were seeing was extremely rare. Ethan continued the routine without hesitation. He ran lightly across the beam and leaped toward the parallel bars again. His hands grabbed the metal bar as his body swung forward. The speed of the movement increased quickly as he used the momentum of the swing. The cables of the structure tightened under the force. The gravity suddenly shifted again, becoming lighter this time. Instead of slowing him down, the change made Ethan rise higher during the swing. He released the bar at the exact right moment. His body launched into the air with incredible speed. 1 spin, 2 spins, 3 spins. The rotation was so fast that many alien viewers struggled to follow it. Ethan extended his arms at the perfect moment and caught the upper bar again. The entire arena gasped at the same time. High above the arena floor, Judge Zurich watched carefully. His earlier confidence had now turned into serious attention. The Dravari judge had seen many powerful species compete in the showcase before. He had seen creatures with massive strength and incredible speed. But this was something different. The human was not overpowering gravity. He was working with it, adjusting to it, controlling every small movement of his body with unbelievable precision. Zurich activated his private council communication channel. Several other council members appeared on the small screen beside his seat. "You are all watching this human performance," Zurich said calmly. One of the council members nodded. "Yes, our scientists are also observing the data." Another council member spoke with a thoughtful tone. "Humans may not be physically superior, but their control systems are highly advanced." Zurich looked down at the arena again. Ethan was now preparing for another jump from the bars back to the beam. "Control can be more dangerous than strength," Zurich said quietly. Back on the arena floor, Ethan completed another swing and launched himself upward again. The gravity shifted once more while he was still in the air. This time the change was sudden and extreme. Several alien athletes watching the event immediately realized how dangerous that moment was. Even the smallest mistake during such a gravity shift could cause a fall. But Ethan twisted his body midair and adjusted his position instantly. He landed on the beam again with perfect balance. The arena erupted with shocked voices. Many aliens stood from their seats to see better. The human athlete stood tall on the narrow beam, breathing steadily. His body remained calm, showing no sign of panic or struggle. In the science chamber, the insect scientist from earlier stared at the new data in disbelief. "This is beyond normal biological limits," he said. "His brain is predicting the gravity changes before they fully occur." Another scientist nodded slowly. "It is almost as if the human body expects chaos and is ready for it." Back in the arena, Ethan looked down at the equipment below him. The lights of the stadium reflected in his eyes. Then he bent his knees again, preparing for another jump. The aliens watching no longer saw a weak species trying to entertain them. Now they were watching something far more mysterious, a creature that seemed to move through gravity like a natural force. And the performance was still far from finished. The Galactic Council arena was no longer filled with laughter. The same aliens who had mocked humans earlier were now watching the arena floor with intense focus. Ethan Cole stood balanced on the narrow metal beam, high above the ground, while the gravity field continued to shift around him. The massive arena lights reflected off the silver equipment, and millions of alien eyes followed every small movement the human made. The variable gravity system hummed softly as it adjusted again. The force inside the performance zone slowly became heavier. Many alien species in the crowd could feel the change even from their seats. Some of them shifted uncomfortably, knowing how difficult it was to move under stronger gravity. But Ethan simply took a slow breath. His posture lowered slightly as his muscles adjusted to the extra weight, pulling him downward. Then he began to move again. He stepped forward along the beam with careful control. Every step was light but precise. The beam was extremely narrow, yet the human moved across it with calm confidence. At the far end of the beam, Ethan pushed off and jumped into the air once more. Because of the stronger gravity, his body did not rise as high as before. But that did not stop him. In the middle of the jump, he twisted his body sideways, spinning once before landing back on the beam with perfect balance. The crowd reacted with surprised murmurs. A few alien spectators began recording the performance again, no longer expecting to capture a joke, but something far more impressive. High above the arena floor, Judge Zurich watched closely. His long fingers remained still now, and his eyes followed every motion the human made. Zurich had expected the gravity challenge to expose the limits of the human body. Instead, the human seemed to adapt faster than many experienced alien athletes. Ethan continued moving across the beam, building momentum for his next action. When he reached the center again, he jumped toward the parallel bars below. His hands grabbed the lower bar smoothly, and his body swung forward in a powerful arc. The heavier gravity made the swing slower, but stronger. Ethan used the extra force to build momentum. Each swing became wider as his body moved like a pendulum through the air. The cables holding the bars tightened with every pass. Then the gravity suddenly changed again. The force dropped sharply, making everything lighter inside the performance area. Several alien viewers gasped immediately. Sudden gravity shifts were extremely dangerous during a fast movement like this. But Ethan reacted instantly. As his body reached the highest point of the swing, he released the bar. The lighter gravity launched him higher than expected. His body rose above the bars, spinning rapidly through the air. 1 spin, 2 spins, 3 spins. The crowd watched with growing amazement as the human continued rotating. Ethan extended his arms and caught the upper bar perfectly. His body swung around it smoothly, never losing control. The arena erupted with loud reactions. Some aliens stood from their seats, unable to remain still anymore. Others began speaking excitedly to those around them. The human performance was becoming the most surprising event of the entire showcase. In the science observation chamber, the alien researchers were now studying the performance with extreme interest. New data continued to appear on their floating screens. One scientist pointed at a display showing Ethan's inner ear balance system. "Look at this," she said. "The human balance organs are extremely sensitive." Another scientist studied the information carefully. "Yes, and the brain is combining that data with visual information and muscle feedback almost instantly." The insect scientist from earlier clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. This level of body awareness is rare among intelligent species. The older six-eyed scientist spoke again in a quiet voice. Humans evolved as endurance hunters on their world. They ran long distances across rough terrain. Their survival depended on balance, coordination, and adaptation. Back in the arena, Ethan continued his routine on the upper bar. He swung forward, then backward, gaining speed with each motion. The gravity system adjusted again, becoming heavier once more. This time the force increased more than before. Even some of the alien spectators felt the pressure pushing down on their bodies. The system was clearly testing the human limits now. But Ethan's movements only changed slightly. His muscles tightened to handle the weight, and he adjusted his timing during the swings. When he released the bar again, his jump was lower because of the heavy gravity. But instead of performing a high spin, he twisted quickly and landed back on the narrow beam above. The control in his landing was so precise that the beam barely moved under his feet. A wave of quiet awe spread across the arena. Many aliens had never seen such precise body control before. It was not raw power. It was something more complex. The human athlete seemed to understand his own body in a way few species could. High above, Judge Zurich leaned forward slightly in his seat. His voice finally broke the silence again as he spoke through the arena microphone. "Human athlete Ethan Cole," he said slowly, "your control is impressive." The crowd listened carefully. Zurich continued, his tone now more serious than mocking. "But the showcase is not finished. The next stage will test your limits even further." He pressed another control on his panel. Deep inside the arena systems, powerful machines activated. A new section of the performance equipment began rising slowly from the arena floor. It was a tall metal structure that extended far above the existing beams and bars. At the top of the structure was a single narrow platform, surrounded by open air. The height alone made many alien spectators uneasy. Even flying species rarely performed movements at such heights without safety fields. The announcer's voice echoed across the arena once more. "The final challenge structure is now active." All eyes turned toward Ethan. The human stood quietly on the beam, looking up at the new platform high above him. The distance was far greater than any previous jump in his routine. The crowd waited, wondering if the small human athlete would even attempt such a dangerous move. For a few seconds, Ethan did not move. Then he slowly stepped forward along the beam again, preparing for the climb. The aliens watching realized something important at that moment. The human was not afraid of the challenge. In fact, it seemed he had been waiting for it, and the most dangerous part of the performance was still ahead. The massive arena grew quieter than ever as the new structure finished rising from the arena floor. The tall metal tower stood high above the beams and bars, reaching toward the bright ceiling lights of the Galactic Council arena. At the very top was a narrow platform, no wider than a few human steps. There were no safety rails, no protective fields. Only open space surrounded it. Even many alien athletes watching from the crowd felt uneasy just looking at the height. For creatures that relied on wings or natural flight, such heights were not unusual. But performing complex movements there without flying abilities was something very few species would attempt. Ethan Cole stood calmly on the narrow beam below, looking up at the structure. The lights of the arena reflected off the metal surfaces, making the tower shine like a silver spear reaching into the sky. Millions of alien viewers across the galaxy watched closely through their screens. Judge Zurich leaned forward slightly in his seat above the arena. His earlier mocking attitude had now completely disappeared. His eyes were serious as he studied the human athlete. "Let us see the true limits of human ability," Zurich said quietly into his microphone. The announcer repeated the message across the stadium. "The final challenge requires the athlete to reach the upper platform and perform a concluding demonstration." The crowd waited. Many aliens believed the human might stop here. After all, Ethan had already proven impressive control and balance. But the height of the tower introduced a new level of danger. A single mistake could mean a long fall to the arena floor below. Ethan slowly moved across the beam toward the end of the structure. His steps remained light and controlled. When he reached the bars again, he jumped down and grabbed the lower bar smoothly. His body began to swing forward once more. The gravity inside the arena was still shifting slowly, though the changes had become less extreme than before. Ethan used the swinging motion to build momentum. Each pass under the bar increased his speed. The cables of the equipment stretched tight as the force of his movement grew stronger. On the third swing, he released the bar and launched himself upward toward the next section of the tower. His hands caught another metal bar attached higher up the structure. The crowd watched closely as the human climbed higher step by step. Ethan continued moving upward through the equipment with steady control. Sometimes he used the bars to swing. Other times he used small platforms and beams built into the tower. Every movement was precise. Every jump was calculated. The height below him continued to grow larger with each step. Soon he reached the final section beneath the top platform. Only a single thin bar separated him from the highest point of the challenge. The arena lights brightened slightly. focusing all attention on the human athlete. Ethan grabbed the bar and pulled himself upward. With one smooth movement, he climbed onto the narrow platform at the very top of the tower. The entire arena watched in silence. From that height, Ethan could see the entire stadium. Thousands of alien species filled the massive structure. Ships floated outside the transparent upper walls of the arena. The view stretched far across space itself. For a few seconds, Ethan simply stood there, breathing calmly. The wind created by the arena ventilation systems moved gently around him. High above, Judge Zurich studied the human carefully. The DEFY judge activated his private analysis system. A computer display appeared beside him, calculating the physical possibilities of what the human could perform from that height. The system quickly displayed a warning. Extreme risk detected. Predicted success probability below expected biological limits. Zurich frowned slightly at the result. Meanwhile, Ethan stepped closer to the edge of the platform. Far below, the bars and beams of the earlier routine looked very small. The crowd could see him clearly on the giant arena screens. The human bent his knees slightly, stretching his arms to prepare his body. Several alien spectators immediately realized what he might attempt. Nervous whispers spread across the audience. Even experienced athletes in the crowd knew the danger of jumping from such height while performing rotations. The gravity conditions could still shift at any moment. A small mistake would send the human falling. In the science chamber, the alien researchers watched their scanners carefully. One scientist spoke quietly. If the human attempts a multi-spin rotation from that height, the landing force could exceed safe biological limits. Another scientist nodded. Unless his body control is even greater than our current data shows. Back on the platform, Ethan took a slow breath. Then he began to run across the narrow surface. His steps were fast, but perfectly balanced. At the edge of the platform, he jumped outward into the open air. The entire arena gasped at the same moment. Ethan's body rose high above the structure before beginning to rotate. The spin started slowly, then became faster and faster. 1 rotation, 2 rotations, 3 rotations. The giant arena screens displayed the movement from multiple angles. Alien computers across the stadium began calculating the motion automatically. A message appeared on several analysis screens. Movement approaching predicted biological limits. But Ethan continued spinning. For rotations, 5 rotations. The speed of the spin increased until his body became a blur on the screens. 6 rotations. Many aliens in the crowd could barely believe what they were seeing. No species without flight abilities had ever attempted such a move during the showcase. Ethan's body finally began to slow its rotation as he approached the lower structure. His eyes focused instantly on the landing point below. With perfect timing, he extended his legs. The human landed on the narrow beam with incredible precision. The beam shook slightly under the force, but did not throw him off balance. Ethan remained standing. Perfect landing. For a moment, the arena was completely silent. Alien computers finished their calculations and displayed the results across multiple screens. Rotation count confirmed. 7 rotations completed during descent. Movement exceeded predicted biological limits. The word spread across the display systems of the entire arena. Thousands of aliens stared at the message in disbelief. High above, Judge Zurich slowly stood from his seat. For the first time since the showcase began, the powerful DEFY judge looked genuinely shocked. Down on the beam, Ethan Cole stood calmly once again. The human athlete looked up toward the audience as if the impossible movement had been only a simple step in his routine. And across the arena, a new feeling began spreading among the alien spectators. It was no longer laughter. It was something much closer to respect. For several long seconds after Ethan Cole landed on the narrow beam, the entire Galactic Council arena remained completely silent. Thousands of alien species stared at the giant screens that still displayed the final calculation. 7 rotations completed during descent. Movement exceeded predicted biological limits. The words glowed across the displays, like a warning message the galaxy had never expected to see. Many aliens in the crowd looked at each other in confusion. Some replayed the moment on their personal devices, watching the jump again and again to make sure their eyes had not been tricked. But every replay showed the same thing. The small human had jumped from the highest platform in the arena and performed 7 full rotations before landing perfectly on a beam that was barely wider than his feet. Down on the arena structure, Ethan stood calmly, as if nothing unusual had happened. His breathing was steady. His posture remained balanced. The beam beneath him no longer shook. To him, the landing seemed normal, but to the rest of the galaxy it looked impossible. In the science observation chamber above the arena, the alien researchers stared at their data screens in disbelief. Numbers continued updating as the scanners analyzed every detail of the movement. The insect scientist from Kethra clicked his mandibles nervously. "The calculations are correct," he said slowly. "The rotation speed and landing force should have exceeded safe limits for a biological body of that size." Another scientist zoomed in on the data, showing Ethan's muscle activity. Yet the human muscles absorbed the force perfectly. "Look at the timing of the leg compression during landing." The older six-eyed scientist leaned closer to the display. His brain predicted the landing moment before the rotation finished. The adjustments began before the body even touched the beam. Several scientists remained silent for a moment. Finally, one of them spoke the question that had begun forming in all of their minds. How many other humans can do this? No one answered immediately. The data they had gathered showed something important. Ethan Cole might be an elite athlete, but the human body itself had abilities the galaxy had never fully studied before. Meanwhile, high above the arena floor, Judge Zurich slowly sat back down in his tall chair. His long face showed no sign of mockery anymore. The proud Dravari judge had spent centuries watching species compete in the galactic physical showcase. He had seen creatures lift massive weights, run faster than machines, and fly through gravity fields. But what the human had just demonstrated was different. This was not simple strength. It was control beyond expectation. Zurich activated the private communication channel of the Galactic Council again. Several council members appeared on the small screen beside him. Their expressions were serious. One council member spoke first. "Our scientists confirmed the results. The human exceeded predicted biological movement limits." Another council member added quietly, "And he did it without technological assistance." Zurich looked down at the arena again. Ethan was now stepping carefully along the beam, preparing to climb down from the structure. "We invited humans to this showcase as a curiosity," Zurich said slowly, "but it appears we have misunderstood something about their species." A reptilian council member nodded. "Their physical strength may not be exceptional, but their neural coordination is remarkable." Another member spoke in a thoughtful voice. "If a human athlete can control his body with such precision, imagine what their soldiers could do under combat training." The chamber became quiet again. It was a question none of them had considered before. Back in the arena, Ethan reached the end of the beam and jumped lightly down onto the bars again. He swung forward once, then released the bar and landed smoothly on the arena floor below. The entire audience watched his descent carefully. This time the gravity field returned to normal levels as the routine came to its final stage. Ethan walked a few steps forward and stood calmly at the center of the arena. For a moment he simply looked around the massive stadium. The same crowd that had laughed at humans earlier now watched him with completely different expressions. Some aliens looked amazed. Others looked thoughtful. A few looked slightly nervous. High above, the announcer finally spoke again after the long silence. His voice echoed across the arena. "The human athlete Ethan Cole has completed the final challenge." Still, the crowd did not react immediately. Many aliens were still processing what they had just seen. Then slowly, a few individuals began making small clapping sounds with their hands or appendages. At first it was only a few scattered noises across the stadium. But then more aliens joined. The sound of applause began spreading through the crowd. Soon hundreds of spectators were clapping, then thousands. The massive arena slowly filled with the loud sound of alien applause echoing across its metal walls. Ethan remained standing calmly at the center of the arena while the reaction continued. He gave a small, respectful nod toward the judges above. High in his seat, Judge Zurich watched the scene with thoughtful eyes. The Dravari judge pressed a button on his control panel and activated the arena microphone once more. His voice carried across the stadium clearly. "Human athlete Ethan Cole," Zurich said slowly, Your performance has demonstrated something unexpected to this council. The applause slowly quieted as the audience listened. Zurich continued speaking with a calm but serious tone. The galaxy believed humans were physically average creatures from a chaotic world. Today you have shown that assumption may have been incorrect. Ethan listened quietly from the arena floor. The judge paused for a moment before adding his final statement. However, the greater question now remains unanswered. Many aliens leaned forward slightly, curious about what the judge would say next. Zurich's eyes scanned the enormous crowd before returning to the human below. If one human can perform such feats, what else is your species capable of? The arena became silent once again. It was a simple question, but across the Galactic Council arena, many alien minds were now thinking about the same possibility. The galaxy had laughed at humans only a short time ago. Now, for the first time, some were beginning to wonder if that laughter had been a very serious mistake. The arena slowly grew quiet again after Judge Zurich's question echoed across the massive stadium. Thousands of alien spectators looked down at the small human, standing calmly at the center of the arena floor. Only a short time ago, those same aliens had laughed at the idea of humans competing in the Galactic Physical Showcase. Now the laughter was completely gone. In its place, there was curiosity, surprise, and in some places, a small amount of unease. Ethan Cole stood with a relaxed posture, his breathing steady after the intense performance. The bright arena lights reflected from the smooth metal floor around him. Giant screens above continued replaying the moment of his 7-spin jump again and again. Each replay showed the same impossible control and perfect landing. In the science observation chamber, the alien researchers were still studying their data. New reports continued arriving from scanners that had recorded every part of the human routine. The insect scientist from Kethra watched the information carefully. "We have confirmed the results," he said. The human athlete exceeded the predicted movement limits of his species. Another scientist looked up from her screen. "But what surprises me more is that his body shows no serious damage from a landing force." The older six-eyed scientist folded his hands thoughtfully. "Perhaps we have been studying humans the wrong way." The other researchers looked at him with interest. He continued speaking slowly. "Many species in the galaxy evolved special abilities. Some became extremely strong. Others developed flight or natural armor. Humans did not evolve such advantages." He paused for a moment while the data screens glowed softly around them. Instead, they evolved adaptability. The scientists considered his words carefully. Meanwhile, back in the arena, Judge Zurich remained standing above the crowd. His eyes were still focused on the human athlete below. The Dravari judge slowly raised his hand, and the arena microphones activated once more. "The showcase is not only about strength or speed," Zurich said calmly. "It is about understanding the physical nature of each species in our galaxy." He looked toward the council members seated beside him before continuing. "Therefore, we will allow the human representatives to explain their abilities." A door on the side of the arena floor opened quietly. From it walked another human, dressed in formal diplomatic clothing rather than athletic gear. The man moved calmly across the arena floor until he stood beside Ethan Cole. This was Ambassador Daniel Reyes, the official human representative to the Galactic Council. Unlike Ethan, who looked like a trained athlete, Ambassador Reyes looked more like a teacher or scientist. His expression was calm but confident as he looked up at the massive alien audience. Judge Zurich spoke again. "Ambassador Reyes, the Council invites you to explain how your species performs such unexpected physical feats." The ambassador nodded politely. His voice was carried across the stadium by the arena speakers. "Thank you, Judge Zurich," he said in clear and simple words. "But first, I must correct something." The alien audience listened closely. "Humans are not the strongest species in the galaxy," Reyes continued. "We know that. We are also not the fastest, and we cannot fly without machines." Some aliens shifted slightly in their seats, surprised by the humans' honesty. Reyes continued speaking calmly. "But humans did not evolve on a peaceful world." Giant screens behind him displayed an image of Earth, the blue planet slowly rotating in space. "Our planet is full of mountains, oceans, storms, deserts, forests, and ice. Gravity is strong, and the environment changes constantly. The ambassador walked slowly across the arena floor while speaking. Early humans survived by moving. We climbed rocks, crossed rivers, balanced on narrow paths, and ran across rough ground for many hours. Several alien scientists in the audience began listening with strong interest. Reyes gestured toward Ethan beside him. Gymnastics is simply one way humans train our bodies to control movement. It teaches balance, coordination, timing, and awareness of every part of the body. Ethan nodded slightly as the ambassador spoke. To humans, these movements are not magic, Reyes said. They are practice. The crowd murmured quietly. Many alien species trained for strength or combat, but very few trained the small details of body control the way humans did. Reyes continued speaking. A human athlete trains for years to understand how their body moves through space. They learn how gravity pulls them, how momentum works, and how to adjust during motion. The giant screens replayed Ethan's jumps and spins again as the ambassador explained. Our athletes are not breaking the laws of physics, Reyes said with a small smile. They are learning how to work with them. In the council chamber above the arena, several alien leaders exchanged thoughtful looks. The reptilian council member leaned closer to his microphone. Ambassador Reyes, he asked, are these abilities common among your people? Reyes answered honestly. Not everyone can perform at Ethan's level. He is one of our best athletes. But millions of humans train their bodies every day. A quiet wave of whispers spread across the arena. Millions. That number surprised many alien listeners. Judge Zurich leaned forward slightly. So this level of control is not unique to a single human. The ambassador shook his head. No, Judge. Humans constantly try to improve. We push ourselves to move better, faster, and more precisely. He paused before adding something important. And when one human learns something new, others learn from them. The arena became quiet again. The idea of a species constantly sharing improvements across its population was both impressive and slightly concerning to some alien observers. Ethan Cole stood quietly beside the ambassador while the crowd processed the explanation. To humans, gymnastics was only a sport, but to the galaxy watching the showcase, it had revealed something much larger about the human species. Humans were not powerful because of natural strength or special abilities. They were powerful because they learned, adapted, and improved again and again. And across the Galactic Council arena, more and more alien minds were beginning to understand a simple but important truth. The humans they once laughed at might one day become one of the most capable species in the entire galaxy. The Galactic Council arena remained quiet for several moments after Ambassador Daniel Reyes finished speaking. Thousands of alien spectators sat in their floating seats, thinking carefully about what they had just heard. On the giant screens above the arena, the image of Earth slowly rotated in the darkness of space. It looked peaceful from far away, a small blue world covered in clouds and oceans. But now the aliens watching understood that the planet was far from simple. Down on the arena floor, Ethan Cole stood calmly beside the ambassador. The human athlete looked relaxed even after the intense performance. To him, the movements he had shown were the result of many years of training. But to the rest of the galaxy, those movements had revealed something surprising about humanity. High above the arena floor, the members of the Galactic Council spoke quietly among themselves. Judge Zurich listened to the other council members through his private communication channel. The Reptilian Council member spoke first. The ambassador's explanation makes sense. Humans evolved in a constantly changing environment. Adaptation became their greatest strength. Another council member added, their physical strength may not be exceptional, but their neural coordination and learning ability are clearly advanced. Zurich remained silent for a moment while studying the human athlete below. Finally he spoke. Strength alone does not define a species' potential. Control and adaptability may be even more valuable. The council members nodded slowly in agreement. The Dravari judge then deactivated the private channel and stood up once again, so the entire arena could see him clearly. The crowd slowly quieted as they waited for his decision. Zurich's voice echoed through the arena speakers. Today the Galactic Physical Showcase has revealed something unexpected. His eyes moved across the massive audience before continuing. The human species was invited here as a newcomer to our galactic community. Many believed they would provide simple entertainment. A few aliens in the crowd shifted slightly, remembering the earlier laughter. Zurich continued speaking calmly. Instead, the human athlete Ethan Cole has demonstrated a level of body control and coordination rarely seen in this arena. The giant screens displayed Ethan's final jump again as the judge spoke. 7 rotations in perfect sequence, followed by a precise landing on the narrow beam. The image alone was enough to silence the entire stadium once more. The council recognizes that this achievement represents not only the skill of one athlete, Zurich said, but also the unique adaptability of the human species. The announcer system activated, displaying the official council decision across the screens. Human performance rating, exceptional. Several alien spectators reacted with surprise. Very few species had ever received such a high evaluation during their first showcase appearance. Down on the arena floor, Ambassador Reyes nodded respectfully. Ethan Cole simply stood calmly beside him. The applause began again, louder than before. This time the sound was not polite curiosity. It was genuine respect. Alien species from many different worlds clapped their hands, wings, or other appendages in approval. The sound echoed across the enormous arena like distant thunder. But the event was not finished yet. Judge Zurich raised his hand again, and the crowd slowly quieted. However, he said thoughtfully, this showcase was designed to understand the physical abilities of each species. His eyes focused on the human representatives again, and I believe today we have only seen a very small part of what humanity can do. The statement caused another wave of quiet whispers among the audience. Zurich turned toward Ambassador Reyes. Tell me honestly, Ambassador, is gymnastics the greatest physical achievement your species can offer? The human ambassador smiled slightly at the question. Not even close, he replied calmly. A ripple of curiosity moved through the crowd. Reyes continued speaking. Humans practice many different physical activities. Some require balance like you saw today. Others require strength, endurance, speed, or teamwork. The screens behind him changed again, now showing images from Earth. Humans running across mountains, climbers scaling steep cliffs, divers jumping from high rocks into the ocean, athletes lifting heavy weights in training halls, fighters practicing complex martial arts movements. The alien spectators watched the images with growing interest. Each activity showed a different way humans trained their bodies and minds. Ambassador Reyes folded his hands behind his back while speaking. Gymnastics is only one small example of how humans learn to control movement. He looked toward Ethan. Our species enjoys pushing limits. The judge studied the images carefully. For the first time since the event began, Zurich allowed a small smile to appear on his long face. Then perhaps, he said slowly, the galaxy has much more to learn about humanity. The crowd reacted with quiet excitement. The showcase had started as simple entertainment, but it had turned into something much more important. The humans had proven that they were not just another weak newcomer species. They were learners, adapters, and constant improvers. Down on the arena floor, Ethan Cole finally allowed himself to relax slightly. He looked up at the enormous audience surrounding him. Only hours earlier those aliens had laughed at humans. Now they were watching with curiosity and respect. The announcer's voice returned one final time. The human demonstration has concluded. The giant screens displayed a final message across the arena. Welcome to the galactic community, humanity. The words remained glowing above the arena floor, while the applause returned once again. Far beyond the arena walls, hundreds of alien ships floated in space around the massive structure. News of the human performance was already spreading across communication networks throughout the galaxy. On distant worlds, curious minds were beginning to search for more information about Earth and its unusual inhabitants. And deep inside the Galactic Council itself, some leaders were already thinking about a new possibility. If humans could achieve such control with simple training, what might they accomplish in the future? Back on the arena floor, Ethan Cole and Ambassador Reyes walked calmly toward the exit doors. The bright lights slowly dimmed behind them as the showcase ended. The galaxy had laughed to humans at the beginning of the day. By the end of it, the laughter had disappeared completely. In its place remained something far more powerful: respect and curiosity about what humanity would do next.